Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Today is the 66th birthday of what I consider one of the greatest actors of all time, Denzel Hayes Washington. We are here today to talk about our favorite 6 Denzel Washington films. You don't realize how tough this is until you have to pick 6 performances from Denzel the Great. We'll have all that and more, along with Charles Kirkland, on this latest special holiday edition of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to a show Charles kept asking me last week, you sure this the last show of the year? And you remember what I said, Charles? You never know.
You never know.
Well,
you never know.
Well, you're right. But interestingly enough, I was writing a piece that I'm going to put on FilmGordon a little later on. And this show evolved from a conversation I had with Wilson Morales about Denzel Washington and how I think, as a guy who's a film historian, that I think I rank Denzel Washington along with the greats, whether it's Henry Fonda, whether it's Marlon Brando, whether it's James Stewart, whether it's Humphrey Bogart. I mean, I think of Denzel Washington in that class, and his 40-year career with a limited amount of what I call bad movies. I think he has just chosen well since 1981 when he did Carbon Copy up to now. I think The Little Things is his next film that comes out at the end of January. The trailer looks amazing. Him and 2 other Oscar winners, and Rami Malek and Jared Leto. Denzel Washington, man, just in my estimation, has done a really good job of marrying his personal beliefs with the types of roles that he takes. And Charles, one of the things that I had investigated that, they went back and asked Denzel over the years about which roles he regretted not taking. And of course, there's 7 that he turned down because he said it was too dark and evil. He also turned down Michael Clayton, which went to George Clooney, and Clooney got an Oscar nomination out of it. He said he turned it down because it was a first-time director and he really got nervous. But the third movie he talked about turning down, and I'm paraphrasing, this is what Denzel said. So if you go online and read it, this basically what I'm saying is what he said. He said he was up for a role in 1986, Charles, for a movie that was entitled, this is probably not the real title, but in his estimation, the film was called The End That They Couldn't Kill. And he said the end that they couldn't kill was a story of a rapist, a convicted rapist, who they tried to electrocute him in the chair. He wouldn't die. They tried to hang him. He wouldn't die. So he was the end that they couldn't kill. And he said he thought about it. He said he finally talked to Sidney Poitier, and Sidney was like, nah, brother, pass on that, man. You early in your career, you don't need. So I don't know if the end that couldn't die ever got made, or the end that they couldn't kill ever got made, but it did get made with Denzel Washington. And, so I thought that was funny. The end they couldn't kill.
So you said that Carbon Copy, right, was a bad picture. You didn't mention The Mighty Quinn.
I didn't say that Carbon Copy. I said that he made his debut, his film debut in 1981 in Carbon Copy. So you sound like our show correspondent, Wilson Morales, who took no great pleasure naming all the Denzel Washington movies he did not like. And I was like, wow, I don't know why y'all coming for The Mighty Quinn. The Mighty Quinn, I thought, was a fun excursion in Jamaica that I remember the year it came out. You had Shirley Ralph, you had Robert Townsend, there was, and it's funny because my significant other is Jamaican. So she always tells me that she hates these Americanized Jamaican films, which is what it was. But in 1989, when I saw The Mighty Quinn, I thought it was fun. I mean, I didn't hate it in 1989. I thought Mighty Quinn was fun. Now, Ricochet, on the other hand,
Yeah.
In Virtuosity in 1995? No, I didn't
No.
like either of those two. But we're not here
All
to
right.
talk
So
about the
you
ones we
mentioned that
don't like. Go ahead.
you said you thought the Mighty Quinn was fun, the movie. Well, I got, for me, Denzel Washington's movies fall into two categories. He's got a category where he's the thespian, and these are excellent movies. And then there's movies of his that are just fun to watch. That if it comes on, I'm going to watch it because it's Denzel and it's a cool movie. So I've got two lists of 6. One for the thespian Denzel, and then the other for the fun Denzel.
So let me make sure I get this right, man. The assignment was give us your top 6 Denzel Washington movies, and you came up with 2 lists of 6.
That's correct, because
that is incorrect. I could have done that. Like, really? So I tell you what you do. You take your 2 lists, smush them together, and make 1 6 out of those 2 6s, which means that you got to leave 6 on the drawing room floor.
All right, I can do that. But
look, try that.
I can do that.
My God, man. Look. Tim, I came up with 6 lists of 6 Denzel Washington movies, 1 for each. Come on, man. It's already tough enough, man. I had to sit down here and sweat because there were some films that or performances from Denzel Washington I really loved that didn't make the cut. And I'm prepared for the heat and flame that's going to come off of it. Now, the other funny part is that I was invited to go on Clubhouse, which is the new app where they have all of these discussions. And since I have an Android, I'm not allowed on Clubhouse because they're still in beta. They're only using Apple or iOS. So I can't get on Clubhouse. But Wilson Morales told me, you know what, Tim, I'm going to take everything you told me. I'm going to go on Clubhouse. And I'm having this conversation on Clubhouse using all your stuff. And I was like, glad I could help, bro. So, here's the situation, man. I want to do my list, and I'm reaching out to Kevin Sampson right now because I want to bring him in because I need some more voices. But I'm going to go with my list of 6 right now, and then I'm going to explain why. But I always like you to do yours first because once I start explaining, I get real passionate, and then you're going to be like, well, what happened? I had some too. So you go ahead, Charles.
Well,
I'm going to let you go first.
I think out of the 6 movies, we may have 2 or 3 that are the same. I'm pretty sure that we're going to have 2 or 3 that'll be the same.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so. Denzel has a lot of performances, man.
I'm gonna go from 6 to 1. How's that?
6 to 1 works. Go ahead.
All right. In the number 6 spot, I'm going to put Flight, where Denzel is the alcoholic airplane pilot who turns a plane upside down and saves a whole bunch of people, but he has to deal with the alcoholism the problem of alcoholism that he has. And it's a really powerful performance. The scene when he's sitting at the inquiry and he's like, I'm drunk right now. I mean, come on, that man. It's a wonderful performance. I enjoy it every time I see it.
That is on my list. Yes, Flight made my list.
I knew. Okay. Number 5, I know is not going to be on your list, but it's a favorite movie of mine. Every time it's on cable, I sit down, I stop, and I'm watching this because the dialogue that he has with his co-star Wahlberg is just something that's so delicious, and it's a comic book graphic novel that comes to life, and it's Two Guns. Two Guns is, and I know you said in the past that Denzel is too good for that movie, but it's just fun. It's a fun movie. I enjoy it. Paula Patton is in it. I mean, hey, come on. How can you not sit down?
You just heard me say that the Mighty Quinn I thought was fun. That's not on my list. I didn't put any fun movies. Denzel fun. I like watching it. It's fun.
Well, I told you I have two lists, and you said mash them together. I'm putting this one in because it's a great movie to me.
Okay.
Now,
Two Guns is on your list, and
let's
it did not make mine. So go ahead.
in the number 4 spot, another movie that's great fun for me that I have to watch every time it comes on, Man on Fire. John Creasy. Every time he gets, I wish you had more time. I wish you had more time. I love that film, John. Oh man, I love it. It's so it made the top 6. In the number, where am I at? 4. Okay,
No,
number
you
4
just did
spot.
4, so
I
you're
had
in
to
the number
throw in
3 spot. You in the 3 spot now. You've done
number 3 spot.
Yeah, you did 6,
Oh,
5, and 4.
Okay. In the number 3 spot, I had to put in Training Day. I mean, he won the Oscar. It wasn't his best role, but it is a lot of fun. It is a whole lot of fun to watch him be evil, just despicably evil, and to the point where I hate him in this film because he's hateable. I mean, and that's delicious that he can be so evil. It's a turn for him because he's always playing the good, nice guy, right? So now he's got this he's just, oh, and when he gets shot and he doesn't die, you're angry. You're like, how did he not die? And so he comes back, and so Training Day. He won the Oscar. I think it was a makeup Oscar in actuality, but he won the Oscar for it, and I loved him for it.
Okay.
Number
Okay.
2.
Go ahead. Number 2.
You ready for number 2?
Go ahead. Number 2.
I have the Book of Eli.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. And you know, Pastor Chuck has to go with a movie that has some theological significance to it. This movie is all about him protecting the Bible. And then not only is he protecting the Bible, he's kicking butt doing it. I mean, chopping off arms and stuff and legs. And the man is awesome in the role. And I just loved it. So the Book of Eli comes in at my number 2.
I liked it too. I mean, this is why this is fun, because you will not have people won't have the same list of films. I mean, and there's no right or wrong answer. These are your favorites. And of course, your number 1, of course, is probably number 1 on mine too. This is not hard to tell.
Malcolm X. How could you pick anything else? It's the role that he played where he should have won an Oscar. I mean, the best depiction, I mean, from beginning to end, the growth of the character, everything that he does in that movie is spot on. Even though he doesn't look at all like Malcolm X, I believe him as Malcolm X in that film. And I gave me an insight into Malcolm X that I never had before. Spike Lee and Denzel, they just knocked it out the park. So I mean, I don't know how he didn't get the Oscar for Malcolm X, but he did win the Black Reel Award. So Malcolm X, number 1 all-time Denzel Washington film.
All right, so
look who's coming.
Yeah, don't worry about it, man. So one more time, can you go through your top 6? Your top 6. Your top 6 Denzel Washington films as we celebrate his 66th birthday.
Number 6 was Flight. Number 5 was Two Guns. Number 4, Man on Fire. I'm missing one. I'm missing a film. What did I say? Fences. See, you made me mash them together. I got Fences, Man on Fire, Two Guns, Book of Eli. Oh, Training Day. I'm sorry. Fences, Man on Fire, Two Guns, Training Day, Book of Eli, and then Malcolm X.
All righty. It was a struggle for Charles to consolidate those 2 6 lists that you have. And here's the genius right here. I'm going to show you how talented this next brother we brought on, Kevin Sampson, is. Kevin Sampson has no idea what we're talking about. Kevin Sampson came with a piece of paper, so I think he might have figured some stuff out. Today is the 66th birthday of Denzel Hayes Washington, one of the greatest actors of all time. not just the greatest black actor, but one of the greatest actors of all time. And I've asked people who I am close to come on this show so we can talk about Denzel Washington and give us your 6 favorite Denzel Washington films. I have not given my list yet because I'm passionate and I overtalk my guests, so I let my guests go first. Kevin Sampson, how you doing, brother? Kevin must be on mute.
Kevin is on mute.
What's up, man? Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to keep it quiet so that Charles could get his out. Man, you know something? I wish I had gotten on sooner because Denzel is my main man. What?
Well, now you're here.
Well, you're here, brother. So watch
happy?
this. Give me the impossible, because asking people to have their favorite 6 Denzel Washington films is almost impossible. It's impossible.
You're absolutely correct. But I'm gonna just quickly off of the dome top 6, and this would change, I'm sure, if I had more time to think about it. But number 6 will be Glory. Number 5 is Remember the Titans. That movie. See, you got to understand, when I was in high school, I was a thespian, right? And so Denzel, I just studied him, studied his walk, the mannerisms, everything. So Remember the Titans is one of those movies where I could literally repeat, like just say his speeches, all that good stuff. So Remember the Titans. Crimson Tide is a bad boy. Devil in a Blue Dress is a slept-on film that I just think is excellent. Don Cheadle gets introduced to us in that film. The noir, everything about it was just awesome. Training Day, number 2, and then Malcolm X, number 1. Now, honorable mention, The Preacher's Wife. That more so because of I think growing up, all those the holiday Christmas times you'd be watching. Yeah, I know you'd be watching The Preacher's Wife. But my man killed it even in that. That was like when he was like in his leading man, sexiest man alive era. Whitney Houston, the soundtrack, everything. So that's not necessarily him acting. It's just like a memorable film. But anyways. That's the top 6.
So can you run it down one more time for people, man? Because I know you just went, you gave us a hip hop cipher, but can you just give it to us one more time for people at home?
Let's go. Number 6, Glory. 5, Remember the Titans. 4, Crimson Tide. 3, Devil in a Blue Dress. 2, Training Day, and number 1, Malcolm X.
Wow.
That's funny because we had a Christmas show where we talked about some of these movies, and we talked about The Preacher's Wife, and it's not the best movie, and it is a terrible adaptation of The Bishop's Wife, where it came from, but it is enjoyable. I mean, I would say more for Whitney Houston than for Denzel, but right. It's a great movie. It's a good movie. I won't say great.
Well, we're waiting on one more person to call in, but until that person calls in, I'm gonna do my list now, and I'm gonna put a little passion in it because I wasn't a thespian in high school. I was a film critic when this movie came out, and I knew it was good. But coming in at number 5, and I didn't put mine in order, so I'm just gonna read them in the order that I wrote them in, from the bottom on up. And in the 6th hole was his most recent film, was Flight. Denzel Washington, I like my Denzel to be varied over time. I like to see him as a good guy. I like to see him as an idiot. And in Flight, cocaine snorting, high, alcoholic, flying planes upside down, running with his boy John Goodman. Denzel Washington was at his creepiest in Flight. Even that opening scene where there's that butt-naked stewardess, I was like, woo, wait a minute. This ain't a Denzel we've seen at home. This is not your daddy's Denzel. This is a new Denzel here. And I just thought he was fantastic in Flight, nominated for an Oscar in that film, did not win, but hey, what else is new? Coming in the 5th spot, I chose this movie because his co-star got an Oscar nomination, and I was just having this conversation with Wilson Morales earlier that Tom Hanks would not have won an Oscar for this role if he didn't get pushed by Denzel Washington's homophobic attorney in Philadelphia. Now, again, I say this as a pivot that it reminded me of a year earlier when John Travolta got nominated for an Oscar alongside Samuel L. Jackson, who I swear was better than him in Pulp Fiction. I'm not necessarily saying that Denzel was better than Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, but he was literally his equal. And I will fight you if you tell me it's not true. He was his equal in Philadelphia. So Philadelphia, for that reason, made the number 5 hole for me. Coming in at number 4, young Denzel Washington is Private Peterson, who slays bad Sergeant Waters in A Soldier Story. This film right here was the film that literally scratched the surface and was like, who is this dude? And he's gonna have a pretty good career if he chooses films correctly. And on both accounts, we were all right. When we saw A Soldier Story, we were like, man, this Denzel Washington character is pretty good. And that was his first movie. He had done Carbon Copy, like I said, in 1981, several years earlier, and had been on Broadway doing things like When the Chickens Come Home to Roost. But this was Denzel Washington's introduction where people were like, oh yeah, that dude's got some talent, coming in at the number 3 spot, because Kevin looks like he's about to fall asleep on me over there, is The Hurricane. The Hurricane, again, a story that I like my Denzel athletic, right? So I didn't put He Got Game on the list, so I had to have an athletic film on here. And as Reuben Hurricane Carter, who is wrongly accused, the one famous scene is when the young kid comes to see him in jail and he's behind the plexiglass and he's like, get me out of here. I was like, Denzel, you the man, baby. Denzel Washington just makes you feel. And in The Hurricane, the arc that his character goes through, loved him in that film, which is why it made my list. In the number 2 hole, did I leave a movie out? Hold on a second. I think I did a Charles. I might have left the movie out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I did leave a movie out. I'm sorry. In the number 2 hole, as the slave trip in 1989, the image that everybody remembers, I'll just say, being whipped with a single tear coming down his eye in Glory. Oh my God, man. Denzel Washington won his first Oscar of what should have been a plethora of Oscars, which we're not going to have that show today. But trust me, at the end of February, when we're about to go and do the Oscars, or in April, we will have a show about this secret club that Hollywood has and only has 5 members in it, people who have more than 3 Oscars. And to tell you all the people who are not in the club, including Denzel Washington, it's criminal. I mean, so he did win an Oscar for Glory, which I thought was fantastic. And my number 1 choice, which is everybody's number 1 choice, in the movie he did not win an Oscar, and I'll explain why that he didn't win for Malcolm X, because Al Pacino, who the Academy had nominated 6 times and had never won, was up for his 7th Oscar in Scent of a Woman. And the thought is that this might be his last shot. Denzel Washington is young. He'll be back, which is true. He's been back several times, but you're not a lot to win every year. And in Malcolm X, it's 3 hours and 19 minutes. He's on the screen for all 3, for like over 3 hours. His arc of him being a hustler, being a criminal, him being a leader in the Nation of Islam, and how we watch him transcend. And Charles is absolutely correct, because I wrote it in my piece today. There is no physical resemblance between Denzel Washington and Malik El Haj-Shabazz, aka Malcolm X. There's no physical, Denzel's kind of darker skin, Malcolm is light, blah, blah, blah. And halfway into the movie, I would say in the first hour, people completely forgot they were looking at Denzel Washington, and Denzel became Malcolm X, for lack of a better term. And the best acting I think Denzel Washington's ever done might be in the second hour of Malcolm X, including the amazing scene, and I know both Kevin and Charles, you remember this, when he is in solitaire, and it's a dark room, we don't see Denzel, and he is getting that spirit out of him. It's leaving his body. You get that guttural, oh, I was sitting in the theater like, wow, he's really good. Like, I mean, Denzel Washington, the thing about Malcolm X when we talk about it is how it made me feel. I never forget, I had literally just started reviewing movies professionally. This is 92, right? And I remember I was working at a job and there was a movie theater next to the job. And I literally took off at lunchtime. I was like, I'm going to see Malcolm X. I took off and I remember sitting in the theater and for almost 3.5 hours, I was just mesmerized. I had never seen anything like that. I had never seen a performance like that. I had never seen someone just embody a character. And then people forget that all the pressure that both Spike Lee and Denzel Washington were under in order to get this performance right. You know, Denzel and Spike having to go to Chicago to sit down with Louis Farrakhan because they wanted to make sure that you didn't have the nation be the bad guys. I mean, the heat from the streets. I mean, people don't remember Spike and Denzel were like, we don't get this right. We got to move out the country. And not only did they get it right, but they got it right that he ran out of money. He had to go to Magic and Janet Jackson and Bill Cosby and Michael Jordan and a bunch of other people to get money. So thinking about all the obstacles that went into the making of Malcolm X and the fact that Denzel Washington took a year off from everything, studied it, learned how to speak Arabic. So, I mean, everything in it, Denzel totally committed to this role in a way, I don't know if he's committed to any role ever after Malcolm X. For all those reasons and the way it made me feel, Malcolm X easily is the best film that Denzel Washington has ever done. And the fact that I get 3 critics that come on today who all say the same thing and we didn't rehearse this tells you all you need to know. So Kevin Sampson, I told you I get passionate talking about Denzel, man.
Yeah, I know. You said I had a hip hop cipher. You had a KRS-One concert.
Hey, brother. Hey, man. Like I said, man, I think
knowledge reigns supreme.
Man, let me tell you something, man. I'm a guy that spends a lot of time watching Turner Classic Movies, man. And I think about the actors that they call the greats. I've watched Henry Fonda, and I've watched Gary Cooper, and I watched Humphrey Bogart and Edward G. Robinson and all the greats, man. And I'm telling you now, Denzel Washington can be mentioned in the same conversation with like whoever you consider great in Hollywood. He's that good to me as a technical actor. My only knock against Denzel, and I used to say this a lot in the 90s, is that I thought Denzel had such a regal kind of on-screen persona that it was hard for me to see him as an everyman because I'm always looking at my Denzel to be, to represent this character, that character. But when I saw him later on in movies like He Got Game, where, Denzel got rid of all the glamour. And, I got a huge unkept afro and I'm playing a convict. Later on when you see him in Training Day, I mean, he had played variations of guys who weren't good guys. Like if you watch him in Mo Better Blues, he's a philandering, two-timing dude who is sleeping with 2 women, can't get their names right. I mean, he's making all kinds of mistakes. He's making bad judgment calls. He's got the worst manager in the world, Giant. I mean, so Denzel has played variations of characters that were not always these quote unquote honorable guys. What do you guys think about that? Because there's a lot of people who like, and I'm talking about white critics, who like their Denzel Washington a certain way, right? And I'll just briefly go into this story and then you can comment after this. Arch Campbell, who's done our show and who's been a friend of mine now for almost 30 years, I remember he and I had a conversation around Training Day, and I think to this day, in 2020, he's still upset that Denzel Washington wasn't redeemed at the end of Training Day. Like, he kept waiting, like, oh, man, that's Denzel Washington. He's not going to be bad the whole movie. At some point, he going to turn into Denzel Washington. And I'm like, nah, bro, that's Alonzo. Alonzo is a penis.
Right.
He's going to be a penis the whole movie. So what do you guys think about this perception of the types of roles that Denzel Washington takes and how white America feels that for Denzel to be effective, he needs to be seen in a certain light, not in a light of all, like they don't want their Denzel Washington to be multidimensional. They want to see him one way, put him in a box. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Charles.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing is Denzel is one of those last blockbuster superstars, right? Like you got the Tom Cruises, Denzel Washington, but he is someone who his name alone would sell a film, right? Back in that time. And so in many ways, I feel as though that affected his casting and some of the choices that he made. As we know, infamously, he wasn't going to kiss Julia Roberts, right? On screen. And so the way that he chose some of his roles, he did that purposefully. So to your point, Tim, I think we didn't get the full extent of Denzel. And I think in the beginning, we saw a certain archetype that he did play. And then as time went on, he started to get into more gritty roles, etc. But I feel as though that might have a little to do with why some people expect their Denzel to be and look a certain way. I think for us, it's a totally different story. He was just, to me, like, and my wife knows, like growing up, he was the actor to me. In fact, Kevin Avery and W. Kamau Bell, they had the Denzel Washington is the greatest actor of all time podcast, in which they would break down Denzel and explain why he was the greatest actor of all time. And I forget how they phrased it, but they broke his career down into like 3 different areas. And, you had like the early Denzel, middle, and then like you got the older male action hero Denzel, which he kind of has taken on as in the latter part of his career. But I think because of when he came up, we won't necessarily get, I don't even know who we have today that's just like such a well-rounded star, but I do think that that's why people just, like you said, Tim, some people have this certain type of Denzel and that has to be him, but I think he's just multi-talented, man. Anything he did, it was amazing.
Charles?
Along those lines, I think that's the reason why Denzel actually got that award for Training Day, because it was such a departure of who he had played in so many films previously. I mean, for a while, you could have said that he was typecast into a certain type of role, but it was just that, again, he was evolving as an actor as we saw him in other films. He started off with these smaller roles and he was magical in those, and then he just continued on to be magical and expand his range. So as we get to things like Mo Better Blues, I was impressed because, again, that technical aspect of him where he sat down with musicians and asked about how to play an instrument and just, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is because being a music major in the past, and you see somebody get up and hold a saxophone or a trumpet incorrectly and have no embouchure when they're playing, it looks terrible. But Denzel studied, he gets into these roles and he pulls it off flawlessly. So, I mean, and I think maybe Chadwick Boseman may have been the next person along that arc. That's what was so bad about losing him, is that he was starting to develop in the same way that Denzel was, starting off with these roles of regality, and then he starts to do these other things like a Black Panther. So, I mean, Denzel is just an incredible man. He just grows and continues on mastering his craft, and it's a delight. It's a total joy for anybody who's watched him to say, I remember when it was just a tear. I mean, the power of a tear, and then to, where he is now. I mean, he can do it all. He can do it all. It's just that he may not have had the opportunities in the beginning to do everything that he's doing.
Well, it's funny. Kevin said something that, as a historian, I always think about this, that, Sidney Poitier, who I call him the foundation, because everything that we have now, 70 years after his debut, is all because of this first Black leading man who sort of kicked open the door for all minorities, women, et cetera, in Hollywood back in 1950. It's kind of the prototype for what Denzel Washington's career is now. He had a career that, we never saw his total arc, but that was clearly a sign of the times from 1950 to about I would say about 72, 73, 74-ish. 25-year arc for Sidney Poitier. And his career kind of is what Denzel Washington, the torch sort of gets passed to him. And Denzel takes on, outdoes Howard Rollins and outdoes Lawrence Fishburne and Wesley Snipes and other contemporaries to have the career that he has had. But I think about, we never got a chance to see all of who Sidney could be on screen, because Sidney is sort of typecast as, for lack of a better term, like the magical Negro, man. Like, he's the dude who would come along and help these folks solve their problems. Now, he was a leading man of his time, and he was the one who kicks the door open. But Denzel Washington takes what Sidney Poitier's formula was and expands on it a little bit. And because now there are more opportunities and we've moved up in time. So when Denzel Washington becomes prominent, it's, I don't know, maybe 15 years after Poitier is done. We're in the 90s. There are more opportunities. I talked before Kevin got on about some of the films that Denzel's passed on. He passed on Seven, of course, as I said earlier, because he thought it was too dark and evil. He passed on Michael Clayton, didn't want to work with a first-time director. And the other film, this is for Kevin, he passed on a movie in 1986 called The End That They Couldn't Kill. After talking to Sidney Poitier, Sidney was like,
what?
It was called The End That They Couldn't Kill, about a convicted rapist who they tried to electrocute. He wouldn't die. They took him, tried to hang him. He wouldn't die. And Sidney Poitier, Denzel went to him for advice, and Sidney was like, nah, bro, you need to stay away from that. You don't want that on your resume. So, but I say all that to say,
story, right?
Say that again. Huh?
I said based on a true story, right?
Probably not. Probably not. But I say all that to say about Denzel.
Another Denzel.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say another Denzel joint though, that similarly themed that I actually did enjoy was Fallen.
Somebody on the phone did not like Fallen, and it wasn't me.
With the Hazel and every person you touch.
Who said that? You're making up stuff again.
Kevin, Charles is not a big fan of Fallen.
Okay, well,
that is not true.
I'm a fan. I know, that's what I'm saying. Charles is saying he is. I was a fan.
Wilson wasn't a fan of Fallen. My apologies. I know somebody told me they weren't a big fan of Fallen today.
Okay.
I'm on the record. I'm on the record as not being a big fan of Ricochet and Virtuosity. Those two movies rubbed me really the wrong way. I thought Virtuosity was horrible. I was like, come on, Denzel. You better than that, man. Look in the mirror. You Denzel Washington. What are you doing? That's right. I said it. Now what? And
all I know,
Ricochet.
When Ricochet, when he was like, Odessa! That joint was funny.
Nah, man. But I mean, I think about Inside Man, which is a movie that nobody put on their top 6 performances. I thought him and Chiwetel Ejiofor had some really good chemistry in that one, along with Clive Owens. I thought that was a really solid movie. He Got Game. Was a film that nobody talks about. Crimson Tide. with him and Gene Hackman.
That
was a good one, man. That's a really good film. Now, I didn't put Devil in the Blue Dress on my list because I thought it was more of a Don Cheadle vehicle than I thought it was a Denzel vehicle. I thought Denzel was solid in it, but I thought it was Cheadle's movie. It was Cheadle's kind of hello moment for everybody. Like, who is this Cheadle dude? He stands out in Devil in the Blue Dress. I'm trying to think of
100%.
Courage Under Fire. Remember that one?
Yeah. When I had my 2 lists of 6, the 6 movies that he's a thespian in, and the 6 movies where I just enjoy to watch.
Kevin, look at my Simple
Crimson Tide was
6 movies.
Crimson Tide was one of those 6, the ones that he's the excellent thespian in, and I had to throw that out because he made me merge my 2 lists, Kev. I had to just do one, so some things had to get cut.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of just the career that he's had and so many different stories that he's been able to tell and be the lead in and just show up on screen. And like you said, Tim, like taking over for the mantle that Sidney Poitier left for him. And I remember, like I said, when I was younger and studying him, and literally Denzel would talk about, they asked him how he had his signature walk, and he said he used to watch Sidney Poitier and how he would walk within films. And just the regalness that he carried within it. And in part, The Preacher's Wife, that's how The Preacher's Wife ends. If you guys remember, like he walks off down the street, the crane rises up, and he hits that signature walk. So, I mean, man, he has graced us with so many great stories. And one thing I do appreciate is that he hasn't stopped and turning into that producer director, taking over August Wilson's 10-play circuit, just bringing that to us to the big screen. I think he's going to go down in history as not only a great actor, but a historian for Black culture.
Wow. Well said, Kevin. I'm always waiting for Charles to be that deep, ever. Charles is my dude, man.
I think I'm leaving now.
So wait a minute,
but
man.
I was going to say the same thing because I mean, not only he has the Little Things coming out in next year, but he also has his second Shakespearean play in Macbeth. He's going to be Lord Macbeth coming up in 2021 too.
Opposite Francis McDormand.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how the casting is going to go, what it's going to look like, but I mean, he's doing another Shakespearean. I mean, he does August Wilson, he does Shakespeare, I mean, he's just well-rounded, and he's just the best there is, there was, there ever will be. I can say, as far as documenting not just our stories, but all stories. So
wow, Charles, that was a good rebound and the save, man. After Kevin, that was pretty nice. So I got a couple more that nobody has talked about, man. Mississippi Masala. I thought about putting that on my list because that represented a Denzel Washington who fused both his sexy image, which around that time, he was kind of one of the sexiest men alive, but it had an indie feel to it, right? Mary Nair did it. Denzel took a shot with her. And Sarita Choudhury, it was an unconventional romance and love story. Now, remember, we're talking about romance and love the weekend after Sylvie's Love has hit theaters, which has redefined what a romance film is for everybody. And just for the record, Nell Minow, I know you watched this show. Nell Minow stood here and told all of us that she thought The Photograph was superior to Sylvie's Love. It is not. And so, Nell Minow. Hey, Charles, that same look is the same look we all gave her when she said that. You thought The Photograph was better than Sylvie's Love?
Yeah, we all had that kind of frozen moment at that point
Look,
in
is
time.
the
I
screen
was like,
frozen?
I love
Look, Kevin, is the screen frozen?
really?
No, nobody's moving. But I say all that to say, go ahead, Charles. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna say it's funny because I remember, with that episode, I was like, and my top 10 list is gonna change, and I hadn't seen Sylvie's Love until over the weekend. I watched it with my wife, and I'm like, that movie is on par. Was one of it should be up there with The Notebook. When you think about like just classic love stories, people need to celebrate that film just like they celebrate The Notebook, because that is just a love story. It captured, I remember, like, you literally remember what it's like to fall in love for the first time, to see that person for the first time, to interact with that person for the first time, to play that cat and mouse game. Man, come on now.
Man, all I can tell you is we saw it in October and had been telling people from October, like, wait till you see Sylvie's Love. Wait till you see Sylvie's Love. And when they saw it, everybody was hitting me on Facebook. I'm like, I didn't produce the movie or make it. I'm just telling you what my opinion was over the last 8 weeks that I told you to see it. But I said all that to say about Mississippi Masala is that after watching Sylvie's Love, it redefines to me what a really solid romantic film is. And I thought, I wouldn't put it on par with Sylvie's Love. I thought Mississippi Masala as a love story was pretty good in 1992, 91. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I thought Denzel Washington was very convincing as a dude who falls in love with this attractive Indian woman somewhere down in Mississippi, trying to run his cleaning business along the prejudice of, him she dating outside her race. The people in his family are mad at him because he's dealing with one of them Indians. So I thought it was a good film. Anybody have that as an honorable mention performance from Denzel?
I would say no.
Wow.
It's not because it wasn't a great film, but it's just that there's just so much. You talked about him being convincing in a role. I'm like, when is he not convincing in a role? Denzel does it all the time. And so I agree with you. It's a great love story, but he does so much. You can't put everything in the list. You made me consolidate it down from 12 to 6. And, it just didn't even make the top 12 for me, but it's a good movie. It just didn't work.
One that we missed, John Q. I think he did a fantastic job in that one as well. But there's one movie that for some reason, like anytime if it's on TV, like, how you got them ones that it's not necessarily like Malcolm X, but if it comes on TV, I'm gonna watch it. Deja Vu was like Deja Vu, Inside Man. Those joints are the ones that, like, it could be on TNT right now. I'm just gonna watch it. Yes, I said it. Deja Vu. That joint again. I'm not talking like, oh my goodness, Denzel, this is the best role ever. But in terms of story, you know what I mean? Like, I could just watch that over and over. I get into it every time.
Well, for me, I already put Two Guns on my list as one of those films that every time it comes on, I stop to have to watch it because I just love the dialogue, the rapport that he has with Wahlberg and everyone else in the film. But I can't stop watching The Equalizer whenever it's on. I'm like, I got to stop and watch that one too.
Right.
There's just so many things that, it's not the greatest movie in the world, but man, it sure is fun. It sure is fun.
Book of Eli, all them joints.
Nobody mentioned Antoine Fisher. Man, Antoine Fisher is significant for several reasons. A, it was Derek Luke's coming out film, but it was also the debut of one Viola Davis, who introduced the snot bubble in that film, which, am I wrong? That scene, it was uncomfortable. I was like, man, get her some Kleenex or something. What is going on with Antoine's mama in this film? But yeah, Viola Davis, man, that was her first appearance I saw her on film. Denzel directed it and took a secondary role in it, but Antoine Fisher was a solid story. It's not often that a movie is made about a character where the character writes his own movie. So Antoine Fisher had a lot of stuff with it. Denzel, was given the story, and thought it was something. I think it wasn't that his film debut. I think that was his directorial debut. Antoine Fisher.
Yeah.
So, that's another one that nobody's talking about. Cry Freedom was a film that I detested, not because I thought Denzel Washington gave a bad performance, but it was the point of view was the white dude, because Denzel's character dies halfway into it, and then it's the white dude who tries to carry on his legacy, which I thought was a bunch of BS then and a bunch of BS now. So Cry Freedom is a film. Stephen Biko's story deserves to be told through Stephen Biko's lens, not the white dude who carries on Biko's legacy. So I can see why a lot of people have forgotten that film so much, or it didn't get a lot of love today. And then another film that I'm surprised that nobody talked about, and I had it as an honorable mention, was from 2007, where he put in two really tight performances, one in American Gangster opposite Russell Crowe, and the second one opposite Forrest Whitaker, and a really talented cast, Journey Smollett, Nate Parker, in The Great Debaters. Why is The Great Debaters not getting any love? Do we not see that as one of Denzel's best performances? Do we not see that in the same light that we see him in some of these other really strong performances that he's given?
I think The Great Debaters was more of an ensemble film, and honestly, like, that wasn't really that wasn't really a vehicle for him. But I remember that was one of his, I think that was his second director, time in the director's seat.
The second film he directed,
Right, and so that film was more Journey Smollett, definitely Nate Parker's film, and I think that was like the introduction of Denzel Whitaker, who, we've seen every once in a while since then. So, it was a great film, but I think it's more of an ensemble film that he directed. And honestly, I feel like when I talked about Denzel becoming the historian and of Black culture, I think that was one of those first films, because as him directing and taking on that story and telling us that story that we did not know, I think that was really important.
Charles?
He said everything that I think needed to be said. Like I said, it's an ensemble piece. But if you're talking about American Gangster, I think the big thing about that movie was the reuniting of the Virtuosity team.
In a much better film. Yeah, in a much better film.
So as Frank Lucas in American Gangster, he's very convincing. But gangster movies aren't my thing, but I enjoyed this movie a great deal. And it showed his range. Again, he's playing this character that's evil. And we've seen this arc now. He's getting into, as he's getting older, he's playing these heavier roles. And it was a great role. I mean, like I said, you can't miss on too many Denzel films. Everything is going to be pretty on par, so not that memorable to me as far as some of the other works. And if it comes on, I may or may not watch it. So, I mean, it's a good film. It's just not up there with some of the ones that we've mentioned.
All right, Kevin has got to jump real quick, and we down to like the last 5 minutes, man. So before Kevin jumps off, I just want to ask this one final question. Denzel Washington has won 2 Oscars. He's been nominated for several others that he did not win, including Malcolm X. He didn't win for Flight. He didn't win for Fences, right? Hollywood has the most exclusive club of all time, which is the 3 Oscars and above club. There are 6 people total that have won more than 3 Oscars. 5 have won 3. Katharine Hepburn has 4. Among the notables who are 2 Oscars and on the doorstep and can't break through to number 3, Robert De Niro, Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington. Now, among the most recent members of the 3 Oscar club is Daniel Day-Lewis, who's won 3 Best Actor Oscars. And as I was explaining today to our Oscarologist, Wilson Morales, it's not that I am begrudging Daniel Day-Lewis his Oscars, but you can't tell me that De Niro, Hanks, and Denzel Washington's roles have not been as impactful as Daniel Day-Lewis's. What does it say politically? Because Denzel Washington is the one guy that's been knocking on the door, I don't know, since when did he win his second Oscar? 2001. So Denzel's been knocking on the door for 20 years trying to get through, and he's had several shots with Fences and Flight, and he can't break through. Is it going to be a case for Denzel Washington that he does a Scorsese, which basically means that he'll just throw something out there and they'll be like, you know what, we like Denzel now, give him an Oscar for that, even if it's something that he's not worthy for? Or what will it take for him to be acknowledged by the industry one more time to get in the club? Or does he never get in the club and he's like De Niro and he's like Hanks, guys that are on the outside looking in? Kevin, I'll start with you.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on today, man. If you only knew how many passwords have his name in it. But yeah, man, I don't think he cares at this point. I think he's just gonna keep making or actor, chair, and that's what it is. I think at this stage in his career, he don't got time to be worried about stuff like that anymore. But I think that what he is doing, which is so great, is he's doing what Sidney did for him, and that's reaching back and pulling up the next generation. He's telling the stories that he's passionate about, which is really important, because when you tell stories that you're passionate about, you get great stories, great films. And so I personally don't think he cares. I don't think he's worried about it. But if it happens, it happens. So I do think it's like what you said, Tim, where if it happens, it's the Academy trying to right some wrongs, as they usually do.
Yep. Charles, you got the final word.
I kind of disagree with Kev on that a little bit. I think he does care. And when he didn't win for Fences, I think that hurt him a lot. I think he was pretty upset that he didn't win either the actor or the director for Fences. I think he does have a heart for, he knows history and he's a historian of film legacy. So it means something to him, but I don't think he's going to go out there and try to find something just to get an award. I think he's going to do what he's always done and just turn out excellent work. And when a film like he gets nominated for a film like Roman J. Israel, and we all see, okay, it's just the Denzel nomination. So every time he puts out stuff, he's going to get the Denzel nomination. When eventually down the line, he's going to get the third award. He probably will get more, because once he starts venturing more into directing, he's going to get more and more as time goes on. So I don't think he needs to worry about it, but I think he does have an eye on it as his career goes towards its completion.
All right. Well, that's the final word, man. We want to all wish Denzel Washington, the greatest actor of our generation, 66 years today, man. So think about it. He dropped his his feature film debut was in 1981. So that was literally 39 years ago. That dude was 27 years old when he made Carbon Copy. One of Kevin's favorite movies, by the way. Not necessarily a good movie opposite George Segal, but you got to start somewhere. But I just want to tell you guys, this may truly be the last show of the year. I said it may be because you never know what will happen between now and Friday. We've said that 3 times, and we keep coming back with new shows. So Kevin Sampson from Picture Lock and the DC Black Film Fest, Charles Kirkland, I got my K's, Kevin and Kirk. Charles Kirkland from DC Film Life and the FilmGordon.com. Thank you, brother. And I am Tim Gordon, editor-in-chief of the FilmGordon.com and the host of this podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Denzel Washington, if you're listening, we love you, man, if you can't tell. You should have did.
Birthday!
Look. You should have did the end that they couldn't kill. I wanted to see that one. Until next time, man. You guys take care, man. Happy New Year.